Mrs. Green Apple, Ensemble is the album. We're doing our track by track listen through, and we are continuing today with the song that is literally called Woo Woo Woo. It's 3 minutes 50. I don't know what to do with that name. The funny thing is, I say it's Woo Woo Woo, but of course it's put into Romanji with double O. Now, when you read something in Romanji and basically like Romanized characters, you think oo, o, but of course in Japanese, two O's next to each other actually makes the sound O. So this could be whoa, 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 but then you'd write it in katakana, and the H makes me think it's woo, woo, woo. I think this is woo, woo, woo. But if it turns out to be whoa, 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 I think it should be woo, woo, woo. Choosing my experience with Japanese and Romanization there to say I think this song should be woo, woo, woo. But if it's whoa, 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 I won't be angry. Anyway, this album's been really interesting so far. We've just been from a double time song that had punkish vibes in Hajimari through to They Are, which was a 5 minute 30 long, restrained but beautiful ballad. And now we're going into Whoa Whoa Whoa, which is 3 minutes 50. I felt my phone vibrating before that happened. Apologies. It's actually a message from someone I'm doing a music video with. Right, so let's check this out. And then, do you know what? I'm going to answer that message first. That actually took so long. I kind of forgot I was in the middle of a reaction. It's still going. Maybe I should mute my phone before we continue. But yeah, let's jump into the reaction now. All right, this is muted. However, this is not muted. Right, let's go through. Why did we go dubstep?
Like a sky, like a bird, like a swan, like a shield.
Okay, it's starting to click a bit more now. Now the beat's starting to come in a bit more. I guess it is Squall. Yep.
Like a monster, like an angel, and you are perfect.
That build-up is nice. There's a good underpinning of the beat, just the way. Just the way the bottom of the song moves. I just kind of want more going on the top there. Alright, we've got this refrain. I want to see what this builds into. I feel like we're waiting for the payoff. That's cool. Alright, that's more like it. Now we're getting a bit more personality into it. we go. We needed that second layer of vocal as well. This was not what I expected, and yet at the same time, when it comes to Mrs. Green Apple, you should expect anything. Alright, first things first. This is definitely a song of two halves, because, and you have to look at it as a whole, because you do have the build-up and you do have the payoff. I'm going to be honest with you, before I give you my full final thoughts. When we were about halfway through this song, I was actually thinking to myself, my God, this is the worst thing I've ever heard from Mrs. Green Apple. I was like, this is really bad. And then it turned a corner. The reason I say that is because this is one of those songs where, and I mentioned this halfway through, you can only start a song like that if you're going to pay it off later. You can only have a song kicking into gear in that kind of way if you're going to do something that makes a crescendo at the end. And what I mean by that is the very first thing we hear is kind of this semi-dubstep breakdown. But as far as dubstep goes, it's not great. Like, the intro is a little bit half-hearted. I mean, the whole thing about using that kind of dubstep sound that you hear here, you're only getting one sound at a time there. But usually with dubstep, there's a lot more going on. It feels much more like it's consuming the whole headphones. It feels big. It feels all-consuming. That's the whole point of dubstep. It's kind of got the tones right, all that kind of stuff going on. But it actually feels quite small. It just feels like you're hearing one sound, one synthesizer in front of you. Has a little bit of stereo spread, but it just doesn't feel that powerful, which is interesting. I mean, it's very funny considering the song that we've just come out of. We've gone from like a freaking old school ballad into this. It's like, okay, that's interesting. So the intro, I was like, I like that it's different, but it really feels kind of half-hearted at this point. Then we get into the verse, and at least now what happens is now you start to get the rhythm builds up and you start to get something going on with the melody, and it's like, okay, we've got a bit of purpose, we've got a bit of direction now.
Like a child.
So the vocals here are very simple, they're very produced, a lot of auto-tune. Whenever we discuss songs with auto-tune, I usually get someone come into chat who's like, just so you know, the attitude towards auto-tune is very different in Japan. I know. I pretty much have solely listened to Japanese music for about 30 years now, you know what I mean? So I'm very familiar with that. However, it doesn't change the fact that even if the attitude is different, you know, any sonic tool can be used all well or used wrong. In this particular case, I think the auto-tune kind of works, but it does mean that when you've got a very simple vocal line combined with an auto-tune that is creating this kind of flat electronic robotic sound, it means that the vocals are not giving you a huge amount to really grab onto, and just the song hasn't got that much going on. But this obviously all makes sense later, because what we do is we build up then to that refrain. So you build up, and what's the payoff? Now this bit's interesting. Like I say, everything that I'm about to tell you now will be counteracted by what I say in a few minutes' time. But at this point, first impressions, I was like, oh no, that's really bad. Because you've had all of that build up and then your payoff is, in all fairness, this is about the most generic club riff I've ever heard. Even the 4 chords at the background, it's very generic 4 chord. The beat's very generic. The synth is very generic. Everything about this sounds like... and I think this is the problem that Omori manages to get himself out of. This song starts off sounding like a guy who's heard club music, who's heard EDM, but hasn't really fully immersed himself in it or understood it in much depth. So he's interested by it, and credit to him, he's trying it, but he's trying it in a way that really does make it sound like he just only kind of very surface understands why it works. So this kind of sounds like very generic EDM at this point, and not in a great way. And so, like I say, at this point, I'm thinking, oh god, this is going to really suck. Oh no. I was like, no, I don't want a bad song on here. I don't want a bad song on here. So there's got to be some, they got hundreds of songs, but still, I was like, oh no. But it brought itself round in the, I just noticed how many people like view this bit. I wonder if that's the guitar solo. But it brought itself around later on. And the way it did that is because, as I mentioned, up until this point, what the song's really been lacking is kind of something that gives it a bit of attitude, a bit of personality. It's like beating us around the head with generic EDM structures is just, it's like getting out a guitar and just playing 4-chord punk. It's like, you know, you can do it and people are going to bob their heads, but they're going to be like, yeah, this is disposable. You need to add some personality. You need to add something a bit unpredictable, something that makes your song unique. And for me, yeah, because you've got the underpinning here. It's okay to have a generic underpinning if you have something over the top. Because if you've got a generic underpinning, that just means it's of the genre. But you need that extra thing to make it your song. And that comes when he adds that second layer of vocal, because then you get the there's a little bit of a funk to the rhythm. You get a little bit of the Omori delivery, a little bit of the Omori personality. And it's like, okay, now you can have that generic beat, because that generic beat is kind of like, that's just the genre. It's just the EDM genre. And now you're making it a Mrs. Green Apple song. I think it's right there. So, yeah, see, now it's got a bit of soul. Now it's a Mrs. Green Apple song, you know? Moreover, that's a really cool melody. You know, even he's throwing the that kind of falsetto in there. He's got like a little bit of attitude. There's so much like variety in the melody and the rhythm of that one little bit that he's putting on there, that suddenly now the song actually feels like it's paying off with something. And so even if I'm not a big fan of the actual musical arrangement of this, I feel like he's given it something that now actually gives it some worth. We are a significant distance into the song by the time we start getting payoff. But now if I re-listened to this song, I could listen to it in the context of knowing that it's going somewhere, that there is a payoff. And what I really like is that then he throws in a guitar solo in the bridge. You could say it's a generic thing to do, but it's something that you don't hear too much in an EDM song. And what I really like is it's a guitar solo that actually has a lot of funk, has a lot of personality to it. So suddenly we're getting loads of actual soul and personality delivered. Listen to that. That is not like a twiddling guitar solo. That's all attitude all the way through. Then it goes back into this bit, which I'm going to be honest, yeah, this bit is still boring. But at least now you're carrying the momentum from doing something interesting. And last time, we pay it off. And the guitar's in there too. Yeah, and so, you know, this is a song that, it is a song of two halves. First listen, I have to be honest, halfway through, I was like, this is terrible. By the end, I was like, this is pretty good, actually. I enjoyed this. Is it a song that I would rush back to? I can't deny that I think the beginning still could be better. I think that something more interesting could be done with the beginning and still keep it chill, waiting for the eventual end. I still think that you don't need that generic dubstep bit at the beginning. So, like I say, it feels half-assed, and it starts the song on the wrong tone. You start the song feeling like, oh, this feels like half-assed dubstep. which is a genre that very quickly became out of fashion anyway. So that intro, it dates the song, makes it sound too old, and it isn't even very good dubstep to begin with. I think this song could have just started with just the beat coming. Generic as that is, I think you could have just started that just not to give the listener any false impressions, and then just sort of build everything up a little bit more rudimentary style. But yeah, this is an interesting song because I think I like it now that I know the arrangement works. I like it because it's a bit of variation on the album. Is it a song I'm going to come back and listen to on its own? Probably not. Is it a song that I will now enjoy when I hear it on the album? Yes. Second listen is definitely going to be much better than the first listen. But yeah, I think more could have been done with this, but we have to come back to that main thing, which is that this is Omori trying a genre that clearly at this time he was not super comfortable with. But he went in, he gave it his all, and I think the end result, his personality, his attitude, and his sense of musicality gave the crescendo to this song. So yeah, it works. It does work in the end, even if it's a bit of a risky first listen. I think that was an interesting one. I'm interested to know what you guys think. I'm also really intrigued to know how I feel about this after I've heard the album a few more times. So let me know how you guys feel about this song. Next one up is Smile of Dreamer. Oh, that's such a pleasant name. We've gone a bit of a roller coaster recently, isn't it? We've gone from like sort of punk rhythms to ballads, traditional ballads, to like EDM. Who knows what Smile of Dreamer will be? Maybe it will be bluegrass. Anyway, until we get there, if you guys are probably laughing if it actually is bluegrass, oh my god. But anyway, until we get there, I have really been enjoying the album tracks in particular because they have been unexpected, and that's exactly what I said I wanted. So, get in the comments, let me know what you think, and until I hopefully see you in my next video in this series, or my next video on the channel, or in the Discord, or wherever it may be. Until then, for now, ciao, ciao.